Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I started my channel in 2024 in February. And since then, I've been charting and talking about the miners along with a bunch of other stuff. And I've been doing it for quite some time now. I've gotten a lot of stuff right, but I've also gotten a lot of stuff wrong. The one thing that I've definitely gotten wrong are the Bitcoin miners. There's no doubt about it. Over the last year, the sideways and the downtrend has just been extremely brutal. And it's been rough holding them, it's been rough buying into them. A lot of people have capitulated. I've heard a lot of things over the years that were true, a lot of things over the years that were not true. One thing that was not true is a lot of people think that these miners are just going to be a exact proxy to Bitcoin because they mine Bitcoin, and the price action should be more or less tied to Bitcoin, and they do. There is some correlation there, but the correlation is not very good as it turns out to be, right? Which is what got a lot of people really upset about these miners. I think the market makers have done an extremely great job so far, and I think the shorts have been on point in terms of shorting the miners while Bitcoin's going up, creating a lot of frustration for a lot of retail investors. And a lot of retail investors have already left. Like, there's a group on X called the Bitcoin Mafia, and Bitcoin Mining Mafia, and it's not very active anymore. It's just been dead. A lot of the major influencers on X have capitulated. A lot of the invalidation criteria for a lot of influencers have been met, right? So why am I still here talking about it? Well, I gotta say, I'm actually don't think the miners are that bad. I'm telling you why I think that is, and you could certainly dislike the video and just shut it off. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say. I still think that they have a pretty decent chance to just keep on outperforming moving forward, and the cycle is just a lot slower. I'm going to show you some findings that I have and some thoughts that I have, and these are just my opinion. Okay. On the chart here, I'm showing you on the left here is the Russell 2000 IWM ETF, and on the right here is the ticker symbol WGMI, which is the Bitcoin miner ETF. Okay. Both of these basically have a big giant wedge going up here for about close to about a year and a half, 2 years. And we have a breakdown of that wedge. And this breakdown of the wedge has been extremely brutal. Where did the breakdown of the wedge for IWM go to? Well, it went down to 0.5, right? And it found support at 0.5, which is actually a lot more brutal than I originally would have thought. I thought that, hey, maybe it was going to hold a 0.618 here at least, but nope, decided to wick all the way down to 0.5. Extremely brutal here. And right now, this is honestly, if you just look at the chart here, we've had just this push all the way up here on the wedge. It's just been going more or less on a straight line. It hasn't really had this like higher low here after forming higher high here, right? This could be the higher low, right, compared to that. And I still think that it needs to come back down, grab liquidity, and really just rug pull everybody before further bullish continuation. And this further bullish continuation can be extremely beautiful when it happens. I'm going to show you some examples in terms of what I think that is. The WGMI chart has been basically looking exactly the same as the IWM, right? You have the same rejection here from the previous all-time high from when this ETF started to come out about. And you have rejection down here. It's holding 0.618. Now, it's not a fair comparison between the two because the ETF didn't really start until like February 2022. So I can do a little bit of a different kind of look to it. Let's say if I start the FIB level up here around March of 2022, right? Then you can see that the IWM is actually holding very well. It's basically just bound to 0.76 here, whereas the WGMI is bounced at 0.618. So it's been underperforming IWM, right? I think that the miners are a beta play compared to IWM. If IWM does extremely well, it becomes extremely euphoria if it keeps on making all-time highs, then I think the miners are going to do extremely well, because that's what happened last cycle with IWM breakout and Mara, Riot, everything else just became extremely bullish after that, right? We haven't had that happen yet here, because we got close to the previous all-time high, we challenged it, we couldn't really break through, and we broke down, underneath the wedge here, grabbed liquidity here. That's exactly what's happening, right? The same thing's happening with GMI, happening with the miners. I don't think it's done yet, because a couple things here. One is, if you just kind of zoom out here and look at cycles, I'm showing 3 different cycles here for IWM, right? The Russell 2000, the small caps, which miners are, they're businesses, they are small cap businesses. So it's not surprising that they are correlated relatively closely, as opposed to the miners being correlated with Bitcoin. It correlates with the IWM a lot more closely, right? What has happened over the last 3 cycles, or well, last 2 cycles, is you have the same wedge. As you start to exit the bear market, as you start to get out of this resistant zone of global liquidity, as you start to exit the bear market, you have a wedge on the way up, right? And as anything, once you have a breakout, there's a good chance, a good back test here. Here, global liquidity back test that zone over there. During that back test, you had to break down this wedge, right? Maybe to grab liquidity, maybe to make sure, maybe build a good foundation before further bullish continuation. Who knows? Next thing you know, it just kept shooting up for about 3 years after that, right? As global liquidity continued to increase. As you hit a resistance zone here for global liquidity, you have the bear market here, right? And as you have increase in the global liquidity happening over here, you have an ascending wedge over here. And as you have a little bit of a back test here, is associated with a breakdown. Now, this breakdown was happening during COVID, which coincidentally, technically, is, it's very, very devastated. It broke down all the way down here. But guess what? They're pumping liquidity. Next thing you know, within about, 6 months or so, we broke back above this area over here, and we just kept going for about 2 years, right? As global liquidity continued to increase. What do we have here? Well, we've been underneath the resistance here for about 2.5 years. And the ascending wedge has been building in very, very, very big, a lot bigger than this guy over here, a lot bigger than this guy over here. The ascending wedge has been building very, very, very huge, right? And guess what? We had a back test here, right? And guess what? We broke down underneath the wedge. What's going to happen after that? Well, global liquidity is already going up. Maybe there's a little bit of a lag here, right? Maybe there's a little bit of a lag here. Who knows? But so far, I'm not really seeing anything that's like particularly unusual about what I'm seeing here compared to before, right? And if I also line up this last cycle, you can line up here from the COVID bottom over here, and I'm going to try to pull up Mara together with it. And for Mara, I do want this to be a 2-week chart. Yeah, I do want to hide all these things. I just want to line them up here real quick. Let's see if they're lined up. Give me a second. Okay, it's as lined up as I possibly line them up for. On top right here is IWM. On the bottom right here is Mara. Mara seemed to be a leverage play for IWM. Mara was hitting some, resistance up here above. Well, actually, Mara didn't really become a miner until maybe around like 2019 or something like that. But I think the point I'm trying to illustrate here is that the big bulk move of Mara that had captured a lot of people's imagination did not happen until IWM gapped up above and break the previous all-time high. Right? Again, the big giant move of Mara that was happening here did not happen until IWM broke above and actually made all-time high. Right? That's when you had that big giant move above. And since then, Mara has just been a leverage play. It went from whenever you have price bottoming over here, IWM was 140. IWM ended up being around like 243 towards the end of the cycle, right? At the bottom over here, Mara was like $1. How much is it? $1.60, $1.50, right? At the end of the cycle, it went over up to like $80, right? It's very much of a leverage play compared to IWM. So whenever it goes to the downside with IWM, Mara is going to do a lot more. It's going to do a lot worse, right? Mara, like IWM went from 240s all the way down to, I would say, down here maybe like 160s. Mara went from $80 all the way down to like $3. Extremely, extremely beta play, right? You can say that, yeah, during the entire time, why did it go down that much further? Well, because of dilution, right? Oh, it's just, oh, this is a small cap stock that diluted a lot, so that's why the downside can be extremely accelerated to the downside. Well, guess what? Most of Mara's dilution actually happened during the bull market. There's demand, there's a lot of shares that are just gobbling up over here, especially this big time move up here. Each quarter, basically each of these like 8 or 9 candles, there's like 80% or 90% dilution on the way up, right? So I don't think dilution is going to stop momentum up. Matter of fact, right now, Mara is actually not diluting that much, to be honest, compared to the big giant bull market over here. I think it's just a leverage play. I think it's just a beta play compared to IWM. And I think that we need to get above IWM to cause a previous all-time high here to break before it goes a lot higher, before Mara can actually have that leg up, right? Before that happened, IWM was already making higher highs and higher lows, right? You can see how Mara is actually underperforming IWM, right? But after that happened, that's when Mara participated. That's when the liquidity comes in. And that's when you're able to go a lot higher, right? I think that that might be the case here. And if I'm going to have to do like Elliott waves, this is wave 1, this is wave 2, this is wave 3, this is wave 4, this is wave 5, right? IWM had the same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If this cycle over here is a lot longer than the last cycle, I think that there's a possibility where this whole thing right there from there, this is wave 1, and this is wave 2 for Mara. Now, IWM is a little bit different. Its absolute bottom is over here. So this whole thing right here is probably wave 1. This whole thing right here is the ABC for wave 2, right? I think we're there. I think we're there. But I don't know for sure, right? I honestly think that this could be it for a lot of miners, and they've been extremely brutalizing. I'll talk about them real quick here. It won't take me too much time because it's going to be pretty straightforward. CleanSpark, wave 1, wave 2. A couple of things that makes me think this is wave 2. There's a lot of accumulation by institution that's happening, and also shorts have been just having fun with it, right? I think eventually things will have to turn around. I think shorts will have to close. I think that the institutional ownership would come into play in terms of more bullish technicals, but it's just been a dog, right? Like price went all the way from $25 all the way down to like single digits, around $7-8. Pretty brutal, right? Well, the whole thing about it is that if you're also looking at momentum, I think the momentum is shifting. Even on the 2-week chart, you can see how price just kind of gone down and the RSI has kind of gone up, right? On the weekly chart, I can see like over here, you have a clear bearish divergence over here where RSI has been exhausted, coming back down. You made an exhaustive move over here. And then things just kind of went downhill for like an ABC, right? Extremely brutal, right? But over here, you can see how price kind of gone down here a little bit, but RSI has been trending up, right? Momentum shifting here for CleanSpark. I think that the last time I saw something like that where price kind of gone down here, RSI has gone up here, was really during this big downward move over here. Now, you can say, well, can this be like over here where you have bullish divergence kind of building, the price went down for another leg lower anyway? Possible. Anything's possible. But if I think that this is wave 1, which I have reasons to based on looking at IWM, because if you look at IWM, this really does look like a wave 1 to me, right? So what are we talking about here? Maybe 1, 2, the cycle might just be longer, right? I'm just showing you that global liquidity just got broken out and just did a back test, right? And that also coincidentally going along with the Bitcoin miner ETF also breaking down at the same time. But guess what? Global liquidity is rising. Maybe we're just kind of lagging behind. I'm seeing some positive momentum here being built up here for CleanSpark for close to about half a year now, right? Mara, same thing. If you just look at the structure too, this is a big giant cup over here, right? And this is the handle, right? If you look at Mara, this is basically an inverted head and shoulder breakout, and basically you're doing a little bit of exaggerated back test here, back into horizontal zone over here, right? RSI is not showing you that momentum, but on balance volume is. There's a lot of divergence here on balance volume, where price just kind of gone down here for about 6 months straight, right? But on balance volume is going up. Last time when I saw that was this downtrend over here, where price is going down and on balance volume is going up. What happened after that? It made an 11x after that, right? And right now we have made an 11x and need to cool down, right? 11x on the way up, minus like 60-70% on the way down. This is a downtrend, and the downtrend has been lasting for a very long time. But I think that this downtrend over here is really showing some signs that it might be ending soon. You don't have to believe me. I don't, I don't claim to have any credibility or anything like that. I'm just showing you what I see, which is what I've been doing with this channel anyway, and these videos anyway. I just show you what I see. I'm not trying to claim I'm definitely right. I'm definitely wrong. I don't really know. Nobody knows that, right? Bitfarms, extremely brutal. I don't have any divergences here that I'm really able to kind of show you, right? I think that Bitfarm is just one of those dogs that just kept on going. This is like capitulation volume over here non-stop, extremely vicious, right? Come back down here to this strong horizontal zone over here around $1, right? Price went from $4 down to $1, went down 75%, right? After it's gone up from 37 cents, 36 cents, or to like $39, after it made like a 11x, right? It gone down 60-70%, 75% here, right? Back to horizontal zone. Have we had any example where Bitfarms just goes down that much further without any reprieve until you have IWM going up? You do. This is the whole downtrend over here until IWM actually broke about all-time high in November, and Bitfarm was just severely lagging. I think it might be trying to pull the same thing it did over here before that. So this is, unfortunately, this is not anything unusual for Bitfarms. I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna buy here. I think this is gonna take a long time compared to the other miners to reverse trend. I think Mara's gonna reverse trend faster. CleanSpark's gonna reverse trend faster. Bitfarm might take longer, right? But if it does, watch out. Cypher has been extremely brutal too. Like, you have this high low type situation, and right now you're finding a zone over here, the same zone over here that we have been having a hard time, breaking above here. We broke above it, we just kept on back testing over and over again. But I think capitulation has also happened here, right? And I do think that it is maybe trying to hold the zone over here around the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. It did break down underneath of that here a little bit more, but I do think that might be trying to hold the zone, right? If I do FIB levels, it's not going to tell you too much if I do from like the all-time high here, because there's no level where we're at right now. But if I do it for the IPO, you can see how it broke down all the way down. It's been trying to backtesting 0.618 over here. After it got rejected here, 0.86, right? This is a very important resistance zone. Got rejected, came back down 0.618 at a golden pocket. There's nothing unusual about it. And for the most part, it's still forming higher highs and higher lows. So I think that this is still going to look okay over time. I think that this is actually, no matter how brutal it is, from like $7 all the way down to $3, or $8 all the way down to $3, it's still performing better than a lot of the other ones. It's just more recent memory has been a lot more brutal. That's all, right? It's come back down to a pretty important support zone. Iron looks very similar to Cypher. Iron is coming back down after he got rejected here at the arc. It's coming back down here to the arc down here below, right? Iron is not looking bad, even though it's basically forming a rectangle here. These rectangles generally, after a big giant move like that, these things are generally bullish, right? When I'm trying to look for like momentum indicators, I'm not really seeing any like bullish divergence. I see a little bit of hidden bullish divergence where price went up and RSI kind of gone down. I think this cool down is not a bad thing for it to have had, right? And also, if I look at the unbalanced volume over here, I'm also not really seeing any like bullish diversions or anything like that on the weekly. If I look at the RSI though, that was unbalanced volume. If I look at RSI, I'm not seeing any bullish diversions here either. But it's cooling down, it's coming back down to a very important horizontal zone, and also back testing the arc over here. It needed to cool down this move. If this is wave 1, I think this is the elite wave flat here, where this is wave 2. I think that's what it is. Woof. Extremely brutal too. Big giant push up, got rejected at 0.618. Price went from like 50 cents all the way to $8, right? It literally went 16x and is cooling down, correcting down by about like 60-70%. Not anything surprising. Coming back down to a very important fit level, coming back down to the angle of 0.382. Not a bad thing, right? BTBT, basically just coming back down to this, push through here on increasing volume, right? And then basically you just have a back test here a couple times. You see a lot of wick here, a lot of demand over here. You see how this is also a very important horizontal zone over here, here, right? We're basically just back testing. It's been going sideways over here, forming a bullish rectangle here for about 2 years. Absolutely insane, right? Riot is just coming back down to 0.236 here. Trying to push the arc up here for about 2 years, not able to do that. Come back down maybe for another final touch here, 0.236, or maybe just plummet all the way down. I don't know. If this is wave 1 and this is a prolonged wave 2, that's insane, right? Then wave 3 is going to be pretty powerful when it comes, right? I don't know the answer to that. That's what it kind of looks like to me, assuming the bull market continues. If not, then Riot's going down a lot lower, right? Same thing with all the other miners I just talked about. HUD 8. What's going on here with HUD 8? Push through one level after another. Couldn't break through 0.618. Come back down to 0.382. Higher highs, higher lows. Nothing concerning. This is one of the more bullish charts here for all these crypto proxies. HUD 8 is one of the more bullish charts, right? There's really nothing concerning about HUD 8. This whole downtrend is also on declining volume. It looks good, right? Probably a good area to buy if you're interested in buying. Not financial advice, right? Cores, big giant downtrend here. Capitulation volume here. Holdings 1.618 over here, right? This might be it. Who knows, right? But it's a big round trip for pretty much a whole year and a half. Extremely brutal, right? But it's been outperforming, actually not a whole year and a half. I think it's only round trip for about, how many months has it been? Like 9 months, right? But considering that price was down here around like $2.50, went up to $18, it's cooling off. It's not anything bad, right? Hive is underperforming. Hive is kind of Bitfarming, except that it's doing an impression of Bitfarm, like an exaggerated version of Bitfarm. It's just been plummeting down, man. It doesn't look good. Where's going to be a support? I don't know. It's hitting a horizontal zone over here and here. Maybe this is going to be a support zone, right? Maybe this is the higher low compared to here. But so far, it's a pretty vicious downtrend. This is going to lag behind. I'm not going to buy Hive because even though I think it's going to recover, it's going to take a while. BitDeer looks great. BitDeer pushed all the way up to the 2-foot level here on the lock scale. Got rejected, came back down to 0.618. Extremely brutal downtrend, but higher highs and higher lows. Basically going back to the previous IPO zone over here. It's not a bad looking chart. If I am to start a position, which I'm not because I'm way too heavy in miners, I'm not interested anymore. I'm just gonna say that. It came back, pushed for Ichimoku Cloud, came back and backtested Ichimoku Cloud here perfectly a few weeks ago, right? On great capitulation volume here, by the way. Held the 0.76, unfortunately ended up losing momentum, came back down to 0.618, which is not bad. I think this could be a good bottom over here for BitDeer. And if this is the bottom, then there's tremendous upside because this is a higher high here, higher low here, compared to this high and this low over here. This is a bull trend. Right. I'm going to leave it as that. I don't want to talk a lot more about my thoughts. All I have to say is I don't think Bitcoin is done. And I'm going to keep going back to Bitcoin here because it's important to look at Bitcoin. Even if you don't use any other indicators, even if you don't look at my GAN, Bitcoin is still bullish because it is still above the Tenkan and Kijun on the monthly, above the Ichimoku cloud, right? When it's above the Ichimoku cloud, above the Tenkan Kijun is bullish. When it's above the Ichimoku cloud, above the Tenkan Kijun is bullish. When it's above the Ichimoku cloud, above the Tenkan Kijun is bullish, right? So I can't really be that bearish here on Bitcoin. I think that this cycle here is just a lot slower compared to that one and compared to this one. I can show you why that is real quick. It's not hard to to think about. If you just simply pull off these moving averages, and I'm going to start with just the 20. You can see how this bull market from 2015 to 2017 has just been bouncing off the 20 on the way up perfectly fine, right? You can see how last cycle was just really, really fast and burned out really early because we touched the 20 over here back in September and we haven't touched it for 6 months. When it tried to touch it, it got so exhausted, it broke down underneath of it. It eventually just couldn't hold and it became a bear market, right? Even during a bear market, you can see how the 20 served some pretty decent bear market resistance here, bear market resistance here, right? So far, this bull market is not really marked by the 20. So far, the bull market is really marked by 40. If I can change some of these numbers here, that'd be nice, right? So far, this bull market here has been marked by 40. 40 here, broke down underneath a little bit, but holding pretty decent support. 40 over here, right? This cycle, I think arguably is twice as slow as this big giant cycle over here. I think we are maybe about midway through it. And I think that once IWM breaks above all-time high, Bitcoin's going to run. I think that the one key thing that we've been looking at with the Bitcoin bullshit and expansion still hasn't happened yet. Where it happened every single cycle, right? When that's going to happen, I don't know. This cycle is just a lot slower. Which means a lot more patience, which means that when the sentiment is horrible, Bitcoin miners is not going to do very well, which is exactly what's happening right now. I have reasons to believe that I think things are going to turn around relatively quick, and when it does, it's going to shock a lot of people. But you also have reasons to believe that I'm an idiot and that I'm a perma-bull. So I'm just going to leave it as that. I hope you guys enjoy this 30-minute video to get these things off my chest. But those are my thoughts. Anyway, take care, bye.